Between the rise of the Kimrog Empire and the tumultuous Demon Wars, there was an enigmatic era. A time when brave souls traversed oceans and continents in search of glory, riches, and power. Let us tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello and welcome to the prequel for Shao Zhen. And give me a brief rundown on who is Shao Zhen and what are his kind of motivations?
That's a good question.
At the most basic level, Shao Zhen is the oldest son, and his path in life has not been easy. There was great family pressure on him, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. I think from the start, it felt that, well, I guess with any family, right? I mean, the eldest gets exposed to everything first, right?
Yes.
So the trials and errors of the eldest eventually will transcend to the younger siblings, and they would have to do less work. So I had to go through and find my path, but sometimes that path was pressured, like you said, by the father, not so much the mother. The mother was there to support, right? She supported me as much as she could. She gave me abilities to think outside the box. Yet on the father side, you know, our father had a different set path for us, right? So it was more like, I need you to do this because I can see the bigger picture, right? So the bigger picture was to X, Y, and Z.
And in Sacura, a family's status in society is very important. There's, different kind of levels of social ranking, and there's also a very, important level of gravity placed on honor and family's honor. And your father, Lu Wei, wanted Shao to marry into another family that would have brought prosperity to your family, and you refused this arrangement, which was kind of an early butting of heads between the oldest son and the father in terms of the family.
Basically the two rams, right? They're gonna go at it to see who's more dominant. Yeah, whose will is going to be the best.
So what happened after that? After Shao refused that marriage, what happened? Where did his path lead him?
Father was very disappointed. I felt that I let him down. I let the family down. I regressed. I pulled away from the family. I also have a drinking problem. And that in itself just compounds the stress level to the family name, not to me, because to me it's just a way out of everyday life, everyday pressures. So what happened was, father took it upon himself to send me off to the monastery.
Yes.
And to enlighten myself through the virtues of the temple.
Yes. And you were there for several years,
right.
and becoming kind of a student of the celestial pantheon and learning to control your emotions, your frustrations, your rage on occasion, so that you could find some kind of peace, some kind of enlightenment. Correct. And that worked for a short amount of time, but then Shao Zhen was getting into trouble as a monk and was kicked
Yeah.
out of the monastery.
I was.
And now, kind of without a feeling of connection to family or the monastery, where did his path lead next?
Well, Shao Zhen eventually had to leave, like you stated. He was left out on his own accord. At that age, young and full of the unknowns, with a background of having a drinking problem, mischief ensued, moving from town to town to town because I felt that the further away I got from the family area or the region, that the family had some kind of control to be able to monitor my being. I ended up being in a port town just shy of northeast of our province area. And there I found solitude where nobody knew me, or I think at least they don't know me. I had no means of bringing food to the table, as I might say. I don't have a skill set other than a small little tidbit of calligraphy that my mother had taught me back when I was younger. And I was quite good at it. And I lost sight of it as time had passed, growing up, because a lot of these pressures father put on me to be that person to bring family honor and integrity by marriage. I never got to use that skill set, but I never gave it up. So when I landed in this little port town, I had to get a job. I had to feed myself. I was in no means exposed to the wealth of the family, so I did whatever I did, and I met with a man. The name eludes me right now, but he gave me a job transcribing for him, and that brought on a small amount of income that I was able to maintain some kind of food and shelter. It wasn't the best, but it allowed me to have a job and just stay alive.
Yeah.
So
And in a sense, this more rural setting, removed from the very rigid societal pressures of the major city and your family and the whole bureaucracy, brought you some measure of peace. But underneath that, there was always that little bit of wanderlust and that little bit of mischief that would occasionally get you in trouble. That is where we will pick up at this point. You have just completed a week of work for the magistrate, transcribing important scrolls and making hand copies of them to be sent out to other villages throughout the province regarding some new taxation. And you finished this work, the magistrate's office paid you, you have some coin in your pocket, and the first thing you thought of is that you really need to just unwind and relax. You've been sitting at a desk in a hard wooden chair, slumped over, hand copying dozens of documents, and you're just ready to unwind. So in the village, there is a inn. It's a 3-story inn that just looks like over the years they've built like one level upon another level. And the main floor of this inn is this open, like there's literally open doors and open windows, this open tavern. And this is where it's kind of a gathering place for everyone in the city, or in the village, sorry. And, fishermen come here after their morning's work. Farmers come here for a hot meal in the middle of the day. People come here to drink. Travelers that are going from one village to another come here. And this place very well. It's basically the only spot where you can get a solid drink and a good meal. So you proceed, and you go in, and the tavern is bustling. I'll have to edit out that sneeze. The tavern is bustling, and there are at least 30 people in there. You hear the chattering of men from different kind of groups. There's a group of fishermen, there's a group of farmers, there's a mixed table of men who are drinking and playing games, dice games, a little bit of gambling, nothing heavy duty, no high stakes. There's, just random tables of people eating, and there's no bar per se. So if you want to drink, you sit at a table. If you want to eat, you sit at a table. And there are still plenty of open tables. There is also a set of stairs in this main room that goes up to the second floor balcony. And the second floor balcony wraps around the entire top of this first floor. And there are big wood supports that hold up this balcony. And then there are rooms, like for the inn, where people stay that kind of overlook this. You find yourself a small table, and it's kind of in the back of the room, a little bit away from the entrance, and you sit down there. And a few moments later, an older gentleman comes by, and you recognize this. He's one of the members of the family that owns the inn. And he's not the main owner, but he's like a brother of the main owner, and this family owns the inn. He comes by, and he smiles at you, and he's like, "Oh, good afternoon, sir. Good to have you back with us again. Will you be eating as well as having drinks?"
Let's start off with the drinks first.
"Oh, of course. I will be right back, sir." And he returns a few moments later with a small bottle of a rice wine that you truly appreciate, and a small, nicely painted glass. And he says, "Sir, we have some very fine fish. If you would like me to bring you a bowl of rice and vegetables and some fresh fish, it would just be a few moments."
Go ahead and do this.
And he bows, and he scurries off. A few minutes later, you notice that somebody comes in to the inn, and it looks like some kind of traveler. He's not wearing like the common laborer's clothing that you see being worn by the fishermen or the farmers. He seems to be a little more extravagantly dressed. He's got like, bright colored silks on, but not like a nobleman. This looks more like he has like a bunch of secondhand clothing that maybe used to be worn by nobles, but it's kind of out of fashion and it doesn't all match. But he comes in, and you notice he has, like a clean shaven face, and he has like his hair is tightly pulled back into a bun, and he pulls up a table, and you see he looks around, and he pulls out a stringed instrument, a koto, and he begins playing his stringed instrument and singing us a ballad.
Interesting.
And right around the time that he's, getting into like his second song, your food arrives. And it's steaming bowl of hot rice with vegetables, and then a plate with baked fish that just looks like it came right off of the grill. And the innkeeper bows to you again, and you're actually excited because this is going to be like the first hot meal that you've had in like a week.
Hey, I'd start tearing into this, but keep that rice coming.
So you're eating, you're enjoying your meal, and you are kind of halfway through your meal as well as halfway through your bottle of wine when you notice that a group of guys comes in, And you don't recognize these guys either. They look like they're not even from this province. And you notice that they're wearing these brown padded armor kind of uniforms, kind of like what a guard would wear, but they do not have the insignia of this province. You see that there's a symbol, and you can make a history check to see if you recognize what that symbol is.
Let's take a look here. First roll. All right. That's a natural 1. So that don't know.
So you basically don't recognize these guys or the symbol on their padded armor. And you notice, by the way, that they are like soldiers. They are armed. They have short swords. Okay. And you see them kind of walk in, and they kind of like look around, and then they notice that the guy playing music, they see him there, and he has like a little wooden bowl where a few people have tossed like some copper coins in there. And one of the guards is like, "You, stop playing. We have an important announcement to make." And the musician like stops playing, and he nods, and he kind of steps back gingerly. And the lead of these 5 guys looks around the room, and he says, "We are looking for a man from your province." "Have any of you seen this man known as Kun Li?" And they look around the room. And there seems to be a couple of the guys around the tables that are not far from you who have a little bit of recognition. Like you see them when they say this name, Kun Li, you see like a couple of them lean into each other, and they're like, "Shh, and you notice one of the guards like catches this, and he goes over to the table of farmers, and he goes, you lot, do you know this man, Kun Li?" And you see the farmers, they're kind of like scared a little bit, and they don't say anything. And the guard grabs one of them by his shirt, pulls him forward, like pulls him up from the table, and he slaps him across the face, and he says, "You will tell us where Kun Li is, or you will be punished." And you see like the fishermen are like, they're kind of cowering back. And you notice the innkeeper, the one who had served you, he comes out from the kitchen, and he's like, what is going on, my lord? How can we help you? What is it?" And you notice another one of the guards kind of walk up to him, and you hear him say, he's like, "We are looking for this man, Kun Li. You will tell us where he is. Is he staying here at your inn?" And you see the innkeeper is like, "No, I don't know anyone named Kun Li. Sorry, sir." Make an insight check.
I got an 11.
Okay. It seems to you like the innkeeper is very nervous, but you're not sure if he's telling the truth or if he's trying to cover. But what you see next is that the guard grabs the innkeeper by the throat, and he says, "You are lying. We will tear apart your inn and find him." And he pushes him down to the ground.
Oh, so can I stand up slowly?
Yeah.
Grab my rice wine bottle, whatever's left of it, and kind of walk up to the first gentleman that was.
Yeah. So the one who just pushed the innkeeper is the one closest to you. He's
Okay.
about 15 feet away.
Okay. And I just drink my wine and make my way there and keep drinking my wine, and then kind of bump into him by accident.
Okay.
so to speak.
Make a performance check.
Performance. Oh, and that's an 18.
Okay. So you kind of do the drunken stumble and you bump into him. And he looks at you and he's like, "Foolish drunk, get out of the way." And he goes to push you out of the way.
And I just
You counter him?
counter him and pretend I'm falling backwards.
Okay. Go ahead and make your counter attack roll.
Natural 18, and all my proficiencies added, it will put me.
So I will give you an option. That's definitely a hit. But
Okay.
the question is, do you want to counter him and pull him down with you, or do you want to counter him so that he falls and you're still standing?
What I want to do is, when I do counter him, I will allow myself to roll him out of the way. So kind of have him stumble out of the way on his own.
Yeah.
Through my action, right? So I counter him, and instead of me knocking him down, I will allow him to fall down on his own.
Okay.
And make it look like he tripped.
So your move happens so fluidly, even though you haven't really practiced your training. Your knowledge of the Drunken Master tradition just kicks in, and you kind of roll and pivot, and as you do, he just kind of stumbles and like kind of falls into the table where you were sitting, and your bowl of like your half-eaten rice and vegetables and your plate of fish like falls onto the ground, and it crashes onto the ground. And you notice that like the other guards kind of like look over there to see what's going on. And the lead one, who had first come in and mentioned that they were looking for Kun Li, he kind of turns and he goes, "You foolish drunk, out of the way or you're going to get hurt."
I'm sorry, sir. Don't know what happened. It looks like your friend had an accident.
And at that time, after you say that, the guard who you countered, he kind of gets up from the table and he brushes off sauce and rice from his padded armor, and he turns and he's like, "You bastard, you'll pay for that." Roll initiative. Go.
Initiative. Ooh, that will be a 23.
Oh yeah, you win. So you could see him like he's mad. He's winding up to hit you with a punch. He hasn't drawn his sword yet.
Okay, well, in that action, so he hasn't drawn his sword, so he's coming at me.
Yes.
I'll do my flurry of blows, but I don't want to hurt him. What I want to do is create enough anguish on him.
Yeah.
Pain-wise, for him to not commit to doing anything else past this point.
Right. Go ahead and roll.
Okay, and that is my dex plus my. Do I have to do a performance check as well, or is this because it's happened already? I have that going.
No, you don't need to roll the performance check. This is just literally your move. So the question is are you just gonna kind of bash him, grapple him? What are you doing? He's coming at you with a punch.
So again, being in my roll drunken state, I kind of like pretend I'm falling towards him, and then I'll just rapid blow right in his chest area where his armor is. That will kind of give him the sense of getting knocked back.
Okay.
So that's what I do. So I rolled a natural 15 plus my dex bonus is, so that's a 21.
Okay, that's a hit. Go ahead and do damage.
Okay. Okay, that is 6, 4 plus 4. So yes, it's 5 points of damage.
Roll your second attack.
And that is a whiff. I missed that one. Natural 1.
Okay. So you do enough with the first hit when you kind of drunkenly fall into him that it knocks him back to the table. And he's like, oof, like you kind of knock the wind out of him with that body shot, and he falls back onto the table. But the other guys kind of start running forward. The lead guy comes at you with a punch, but your armor class is 17, so he misses. The second guy comes at you to try to grapple you and misses. The third guy comes at you with a punch, and the last guy tries to kick and rolls a 1, and he splits his pants. You hear his pants go. Now, at this time, everybody in the bar, the fishermen, the commoners, the traveling merchants, are all like backing away. But you see that the guy with the stringed instrument, he seems excited, and he stands up on his table to like watch the fight, and he starts playing theme music, and he's like ding 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 ding. So all right, back to the top of the order. It's your turn. So you are literally surrounded right now. None of them have drawn their weapons yet.
Perfect. And I'm going to try to see if I can maintain that order, meaning that any move that I do will counter them trying to take their sword out or any other weapon that they have to come at me. So my attacks will be to fall on them in a drunken state, do damage to them, but prevent them from lifting a sword up.
I got you. So you could tell none of them are reaching for their swords, but the guy that you knocked back on the table, he's going to try to punch you. The other 3 are also punching or kicking at you. So that's 4 guys who are just trying to physically beat you up. The 5th guy is the slightly larger one that was trying to grapple you. And you see he's kind of moving around, not so much with fists, but it looks like he's moving around looking for an opening to try to go in for a grapple. So who do you want to deal with and how?
Well, I don't know if this would make sense, but what I like to do is fall onto the fisherman's table, grab their rice wine, and continue drinking.
Yes.
To aggravate my stance, and then maybe get into my, I believe it's called patient defense.
Yes.
And then get into that state where I allow them to come at me, and then, so I'm going to be standing there drunk and just kind of limbering around and allowing.
So the nice thing about the patient defense is that it gives you the dodge action as a bonus action. So you could still hit someone with your action.
Correct.
And then use patient defense as your dodge action. So do you want to attack any of them?
I would like to hit the same guy that I hit originally.
Okay. So he's getting up off the table and you're going to knock him. You're going to fall back into him.
Correct. And I rolled a natural 17 on that one. So that puts it at 20.
Yep.
23. Yeah.
Damage
on that. That is a 7.
Okay. And then the second punch?
That is a 16.
Hit. Damage.
And that is also another 7 points.
You fall into him as you're kind of waving around and everybody's swinging at you, missing, kicking, and you kind of fall into him again and just do a double. And he goes back over the table. The table knocks over and falls on him, and he is unconscious. All right, then you minus off a chi point and you activate patient defense, and you're still swirling around using your Drunken Master Event technique. With patient defense, you have the dodge action essentially. So this attack is going to be a disadvantage. Miss. The second guy swings and he gets a 14, but that misses because you have an AC of 17. The third guy hits you with a 17, and then the last guy fails to grapple. So you take a point of damage as the third guy connects with you and punches you, and it just grazes off of you. Top of the order, you're up.
Okay, so one guy is already over the table, so he's nowhere near me, correct?
Yeah. So you're down to 3 guys who are trying to fight you and 1 that's trying to grapple you.
Okay. I go to the leader side and I kind of like roll into him, take a swig of my rice wine, and just go couple of hits on him, and then go back to my defensive stance. Okay, natural 20 on the first one. Let's see here. It's 4. So I get to roll the D4, the 4-sided twice, right?
No, you max out the first one.
Max out. Okay, max out the first one. So
and
that's
then you add the 4. So you just did 12 damage to
12
him.
damage. Yeah,
So,
in one hit.
So here's what happens. You go to drink your rice wine, and as you're circling, you elbow him to the face, and he goes, oof, and he just flies back and lands on the ground.
My lord, I am so sorry.
You get a second attack on one of the adjacent guys. Go ahead.
Okay, that's a 13.
So after elbowing that guy while taking your swig, you kind of apologize, and then you spin around with your elbow and hit another guy with your other elbow. Roll the damage for that 13.
That's a 6.
Okay, he's not knocked out, but you smashed him too, and he's like, oh, and he kind of falls over on another table on the other side. Okay, this guy misses, and this guy's grapple check might succeed. Make a strength, let's see, make an athletics check and tell me what your total is.
Athletics check. +2, that's a 13.
Okay, he is an 11. So he puts you in a hold, but you kind of like, you kind of like fall down like you're drunk and slip out of his hold. All right, top of the order, your turn.
That guy that just tried to grapple me, I fell down, and then I kind of spring up and use my head to see if I can contact his chin.
Okay.
And kind of roll into him that way. That is a 16.
That's a hit.
Okay, and I'm gonna do full point, 8 points on that guy.
Okay, you jump back up and reverse headbutt him and crack. You hear his nose crack, and he's like, oh, and there's just blood running down his face, and he's kind of like, it's stinging in his eyes, and he's back. What's your second attack?
Second attack is, let's see, can I?
I will say that you, from where you are, you could knock this guy back across the railing, and if you hit, you can knock him back, and if you do enough damage, he'll probably be knocked out as well.
Okay, let's try to stay on the same guy. I take another swig of rice wine, and that's a 22.
Okay.
Sorry.
Damage?
Yeah. Damage on that guy, it's also an 8.
Okay.
That's 4 + 4, yeah.
So you slip out of this guy, and then you drunkenly get up and boom, crack him, and he's like, oh, and there's just blood flowing down his face, and then you turn and you're like, I'm sorry, and you elbow smash him. He goes flying back over the rail.
My lords, I am so sorry. And then I lean out and I look at the person playing the majestic instrument, and I kind of wink at him and then go back into the defensive stance.
One guy pulls his sword.
Oh.
He pulls his sword and he swings, but he misses. The other guy that you injured gets up, and he doesn't pull his sword. He tries to tackle you, but he misses. So there's only 2 guys left, and both of them have been injured and wounded. So it's your turn. The one guy with the sword looks like he's not messing around. He's pissed.
Okay.
And he's swinging at you.
Okay. So he's in lieu of swinging at me, or he's already swung and missed, and then my counter would happen.
He's swung and missed.
Okay. So
but he has his sword out, and he definitely looks like he's going in for another swing this round.
Okay. So I will try to counter him to the point where I can grapple his hand that has the sword, clinch my hand around his hand that is holding the sword, and see if I can put it back into the sheath, and then try to uppercut him at the same time.
Okay. So I will say that you can do that.
Okay.
Using your monk. I'm going to say that you won't be able to make the second attack, But if you want to do the fancy move where you grapple and reverse his weapon and put it back in its sheath, I will say that effectively that is going to be the same as sort of like a deflect missiles thing. So kind of like a grapple deflect missile. So just make a standard monk unarmed attack roll. So that's your +6.
So I rolled a 16, so that puts me at 22.
Okay. So you are able to actually roll into him and catch his momentum, and you kind of bend his wrist so that it becomes weak, and he starts to kind of let go of his sword, and you sheath his sword. So he does not have a sword. The other guy actually does hit you. Roll an 18. So you take another point of damage as you're hit in the back of the head by this other guy. He just kind of hammers the back of your head.
So I roll forward, and as I'm rolling forward, I take another swig of rice wine, and I'm looking at tables to see if there's any more wine.
There are, but most of the other people who were near the fight have like grabbed their food and their drinks and backed away to the walls because they don't want to get their, table knocked over. All right, top of the order. You have the guy who is now even more furious, and he's reaching for his sword and cussing at you. He's like, "You bastard, you'll pay!" And he's going to pull his sword out again, but it's your turn.
Okay. So as he's trying to pull his hand out, what I like to do is force his hand back on the sheath with one hand, and then my other hand, I'm just gonna clock him right in the chin. See if that's possible. So I'm using my weight to put on that one arm, and then I'll just go ahead and uppercut him on the other. And that's a 16.
Okay, that's successful. So you kind of like chop his wrist, almost like slapping his wrist to stop him from pulling out his sword.
Okay, that's 6 points.
Okay, you hear his forearm crack. It's like, and he's like, ah! And then your second attack?
Okay. Second attack goes across the chin, and that's an 18.
Hit.
And 7 points.
You clock him, and he is out. He spins and then just falls to the ground. Make an intimidation check.
Intimidation check. Ooh, not very
Actually,
good.
sorry. I'll let you do performance.
Okay. If I keep that same roll, performance, that's a 3.
Okay. Your weaving and moving around has mesmerized everyone around, and the last guy is looking at you, and you can tell that he's trying to decide whether to pull his sword out or not, and instead he just tries to swing at you, but he misses. Your turn. Last guy.
So
All the rest of them are knocked out.
So stumbling in my drunken state, I kind of stumble over to the fishermen that had the altercation, and I tell them that they need to leave and take their friend that they're looking for out of this town. And then I turn around, and then I kind of stumble forward using my forehead just to hit this guy right in the middle of the chest, just using my like a headbutt. Can that happen?
Yes.
Okay. And that is a 13.
That works. You just barely hit.
Okay. And that is 5 points.
Okay.
Headbutt damage.
Boom! You headbutt him. You crack his nose. He kind of like wavers and then drops. You see the innkeeper pick himself up off the floor and like dust off his clothes, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, Shao Zhen."
You are very welcome, and I help him up to his feet.
And
I'd say,
he says, "I don't know why these men are here. They are part of the Mountain Tigers, and I don't know why they would be interested in a simple craftsman such as Kun Li, but I thank you for stopping them from abusing my patrons." And several of the farmers kind of like nod, and the fishermen nod. And you notice that the musician, he kind of smiles, and he puts his his koto back in its bag and he slings it, his satchel, over his shoulder, and he walks over to you and he says, Shao Zhen, eh? How fortunate for me. And then you see he reaches into his robe.
Well, I kind of stand up a little bit back to make sure that he's not going to pull anything out.
He says, I have been traveling quite a ways for you, Shao Zhen. It is fortunate that I have found you here. And he pulls out this scroll and he hands it to you. And he says, now, that was quite entertaining. But that is for you. And he looks around, he goes, I'm going to be leaving before any of the other mountain tigers come here. Have a safe travel.
Who are you, sir?
I'm just a simple courier. But that comes from the capital of the province. Someone very important seeks you and paid me good coin to find you. I've been wandering around the rural villages of this province for a month now. You're a hard man to find.
Take a swig of my rice wine.
So, do you open up the letter?
I don't open up just yet, but I'm trying to feel where maybe his intentions are. Do I sense that he's genuinely is a courier?
Yeah, he looks.
Obviously,
I mean,
his dressing doesn't meet my.
He doesn't look like a noble, like I said. He's got kind of like secondhand, hand-me-down, nice clothing that doesn't really match. And you see him after he delivers the scroll to you. He kind of like turns. He walks back over to his table, picks up his bowl of rice, and like finishes eating it and sets it down, and then he walks out.
Well, I think what I want to do right now is go to every single one of these mountain tigers and look into their pockets. I'm not going to steal their money, but what I like to do is any coin that they have is give it to the innkeeper for the damages that are accumulated over this course of
so
action.
As you basically loot these guys, remember they're not dead, they're unconscious.
Sure.
The farmers and the fishermen, after you do each one, they pick the guys up and quietly kind of try to bring them out, and they put them in the street outside. You go through, there's a variety of copper and silver, nothing really valuable. They have the padded armor, they have the short swords, but the leader had a scroll, and that scroll, as you unroll, has a chalk depiction of a middle-aged man with like, who's like bald on top and has like a crown of hair on the side and has like a mustache, and it says Kun Li, wanted by the Mountain Tiger clan.
Okay.
So it's basically a bounty.
Okay.
You don't know this Kun Li figure though. It's not a name that you're familiar with from this village.
Does the innkeeper might know him? Can I inquire?
The innkeeper says, well, in his youth, Kun Li was a soldier, a loyal servant of the province, but he uncovered some corruption. At the time, the magistrates had agreed to a higher tax rate, which was punishing the farmers of the area. Kun Li was disturbed by this and dishonored by it. He quit his service as a soldier and began to punish those tax collectors. He would steal from the magistrates and give the coins back to the farmers and to the poor.
Okay.
But this was 20 years ago. I can't imagine what they would want with this old man now.
Interesting.
He says, we are going to close up soon. You should probably not be here when those fools wake up.
I nod, and I hand him the coin that accumulated from the guards. And I say again, I'm very sorry for the occurrence. Please inform me if any of these men come back into town inquiring about
When they
me.
wake up, they at least won't have any swords. The farmers saw to that.
Oh, that is much appreciated. But inform me if any new soldiers come into town.
Of course. And he nods.
And I leave, and I bow again, and I leave out.
When you leave, you notice in the alley off to the side of the building, you see all of these men, although their swords are missing.
Okay.
And you see some of the farmers and some of the locals kind of scrambling away with bundles of bamboo. And you feel like maybe they jacked the swords. So you're walking through the village and you have this scroll. And it is at that time that you notice that the wax seal on the scroll bears your family's symbol, which you have not seen in 4 years.
So I think I will take a walk to my shelter and then sit down and open the scroll.
Okay.
And read its contents.
You break the seal. You're sitting in the shade and you're reading this scroll. You're immediately confronted by the style of the calligraphy and the penmanship. It is not written by your father, but you recognize the calligraphy as being in this distinct style of your mother. But it is a missive for you to return home. There is urgent family business of the utmost importance to your family that must be handled, and your presence is required in the capital of the province where your family lives.
Interesting. So,
and it is signed by your father in his penmanship, but it is clear that the rest of the missive was done by your mother, because you recognize her style.
Well, I'm taken back and perplexed that somebody was able to find me in this little village so far away from the main capital. And
as you ponder that, you sit under the shade of this plum tree, and memories of your childhood flow back. Fond memories of your mother and your brothers and your baby sister, who you have none of them have you seen in 4 years. So you think about all of these things and ponder over everything, and you're kind of like lost in your memories for a moment. And that is where we will end this prequel episode of High Adventure, featuring Shao Zhen's story. So we'll see you for the first full episode coming soon. Peace out.
Well, hello, it's me, Wizzy. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. And then don't forget to tune in to the next episode of whatever show you were just watching, and crafting videos and DM tips and pro tips for vlogging and all sorts of gaming things. And also you could watch Bill eat food and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.